Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, January 22nd, 2024. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Yacht 1974 Limited took to the skies today in its final leg of flights across the Caribbean, marking an end of an era in regional aviation. One of its final departures was at the Argyle International Airport here in SVG, where a water salute was carried out to bid farewell to the regional airline. President of the Yacht Workers Union, SVG, Jeremiah Howard, tells SVG-TV News it is indeed a historic day as he reflects on the regional carrier which served the people of the Caribbean well despite its challenges.
On this last day of Yacht, I should say, after 67 years of service to the Caribbean and the Caribbean people, it's like an oxymoron. It's bitter yet it's sweet. There's a lot of regret, but there's a lot of admiration and compliments. Yacht would leave an indelible mark in the minds and in the hearts of the Caribbean people, from prime ministers to business people, to the traffickers, to the students, to the revelers, to the patrons of the various events in and around the Caribbean, in carnivals and all different type of Easter festivals and so forth. I think Yacht was more than an aircraft, or Yacht was more than a flight or a trip. Yacht was more of a lifestyle, and Yacht embraced and understood the Caribbean culture, I think, like no one else did.
Yacht 1974 Limited will officially cease operations on January 24, 2024. Howard, who worked with the airline for more than a decade, says it is hard to make an assessment of Yacht 1974.
I must say, the staff, it almost brings tears to my eyes when I see the staff up to the last day serving this great airline, and a lot of us will not understand what the staff went through, not just this present staff, but throughout the 67 years. The challenges, the lessons learned, and we salute the staff with pride. They work with pride, dignity, and resilience, given the highs and lows of the airline and challenges that come along with traveling. How do you assess Yacht? Yacht cannot be assessed. The value that Yacht contributed to the Caribbean, it's really hard to assess it. And all we can do is embrace the great memories, learn from the mistakes, and hope that we'll see a new Yacht one day.
Now that Yacht will cease to operate, 6 persons who were on contract with the regional airline are left jobless. When Yacht 1974 Limited went into liquidation in 2020, about 40 staff in SVG were sent home.
Meetings with the Prime Minister in May and in June of last year, and we were told to send him a proposal because he raised some issues. We did send a proposal in July last year, and we didn't get a response, and we sent a follow-up letter in November last year asking for a response, and to date we haven't received any responses yet. I must say though that the issues that the Prime Minister raised, we took it back to the general body, and in good faith, which is something you have to express in negotiations, the general body, we were able to get the general body to reduce the quantum a bit. Now the figure really is not just severance pay. The figure the figure includes as well vacation pay. So I'm saying that we were able to reduce the figure, right, after we consulted with the workers. I would not go into details at this time because we have to respect the protocol. We are in a negotiation, and I will not say much more on that. So right now we are waiting a response from the Prime Minister, and we hope it will be favorable, for us.
The end of operations of Yacht 1974 Limited paves the way for the much anticipated rebirth of Yacht 2020 Limited. Among the projects which the Ministry of Urban Development will be embarking on this year is the Kingston Revitalization Project. On radio yesterday, Minister responsible for urban development, Minerva Brown, said within the Kingston Revitalization Project, they will be seeking to develop master plans for Kingston to resolve some of the current issues, including traffic flow, taking the capital into and beyond the 21st century, noting that Kingston was developed as a colonial port city. However, over time, things have changed and they must keep up with these changes.
It's going to be a multi-sectoral approach to looking at the city. This is an exciting time and an exciting process to be a part of, and I'm grateful for that. A part of the TOR for the Urban Revitalization Project, they're going to be looking at parking and traffic analysis.
And Minister, sorry to cut you, but is it TOR in terms of reference?
Terms of reference.
Okay,
yes.
just for the benefit of our listeners.
That would be basically the company that eventually wins the bid to develop the master plan. This would be the boxes that they must tick. So comprehensive parking and transport analysis would be undertaken. We're going to look at whether or not the density, when I speak of density, I speak of it in terms of buildings and occupation and the stories, the amount, density, look at the density of buildings, the population and housing growth within the urban areas, open spaces, climate change. We're going to look at all those things. Something that we don't speak about often when we think about climate change, we think about the impact of rain and excessive rainfall and rain events on our country. But what we have more and more happening, we're having more and more heat events that are happening. But what we also need to look at is how that affects our urban areas and how we live, play, work, and even learn for the case of students within the urban areas. The global trend show that urbanization, which is well on the way of what's happening in St. Vincent, that trend is expected to continue. So it's expected by 2030 that 80% of the world's population is going to be living in urban areas and depending on the resources of urban areas for survival. So the improvements and planning for this kind of development or for this phenomenon, it's essential.
Brown says one of the major advantages of the new ports currently under construction is the free up of the lands on the western end, which he says will create great opportunities for Vincentians to have an input into how they would like the city to look.
We have to understand that we're in a time where the development and your architecture features, they evoke a feeling of a country, of a spirit, of a people, and we need to be a part of that and see how we're going to carry it there. But you speak of that land, but there are also lands that this budget has in place that we are opening up and freeing up in town, and that we're going to be looking at, and the possibilities of those lands, state-owned lands. And that's also exciting as well. I just also want to mention this. What also that is going to be taken into consideration into the development of the master plans is the festivals and the cultural importance that Kingston has. That's something that we sometimes ignore, we don't pay much attention to it, but at the end of it, the streets of Kingston is a home of Vinci Mass. 9 mornings. And other small little festivals that we have, and we need to also make
sure. We have a Heritage Square that is really not doing anything about heritage currently.
Yes, but Heritage Square has heritage to it and historical importance, and maybe we can look at expanding that and opening up that whole history of Heritage Square to the wider Vincentian audience this year.
Brown said capital Kingston is under severe climate pressure, which they will be seeking to address in the master plan. On plans for Little Tokyo, Minister Brown says the area will undergo significant renovations this year.
Watch the end of the project that we have envisioned for Little Tokyo. You should see a transformed space. This space will be transformed to include retail spaces as well as being a bus terminal as well. It's going to become the bus terminal for both the leeward and the windward side of the island. it's supposed to provide.
And Minister, does that mean that the one that exists right now at South River Road will no longer be there? The bus stop, there's a bus terminal there.
The South River Road, the Leeward bus stop that it's near to the Little Tokyo now, that would be the one that is affected.
Okay, and you say that buses from
both sides
would use
through
that particular location?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So no more turning around at Peace more and that kind of stuff, or
we will try to improve those general, because you see there's the improvement of a bus lane that is coming down there and the general improvement there. But we are looking to have a strong upgrade, revitalization, refreshing of Little Tokyo and the activities around Little Tokyo.
And would you say more organized?
More organized. So I'm getting to that part here. As part of this, we will see possibly the addition of 100+ parking spaces on this site as well.
Okay.
So in terms to date, what has happened, there has been the data collection on the vendors within that area. The geese shed has been identified as an area for possible and temporary relocation of the bus terminal activities currently. Temporary. And we have begun the final designs of what the Little Tokyo is going to be looking like. So in 2024, you would see the relocation of the bus terminal to the geese shed, and you would also see the payment of compensation to vendors who will be adversely affected. They will receive some levels of compensation, and we will begin the necessary demolition.
With increase in yacht arrivals across the country, leader of the opposition New Democratic Party, Dr. Godwin Friday, wants the government to take a strong position in dealing with crimes against yachties. Dr. Friday was addressing the issue today on the New Times program.
Because the yachties, they come and they buy services as well. They don't just sail into the harbor and drop anchor. They buy services on shore. So we want to be able to encourage that form of tourism. So we have to send a message that when there are crimes against yacht visitors, break-ins and so forth, theft of their dinghies and engines, and which is the most common form of crime against them, that we will take action quickly to discourage these kinds of activities, because they scare people away. Just imagine how much better we could be doing if people feel that when they come here, no matter which bay you're going, which harbor you go to, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that you would feel safe doing so. Then more and more people will come. The fact that the numbers are rising is not anything to be sort of complacent about and to say, well, okay, we are doing well. We are still not anywhere near where we were, 15 years ago in terms of yacht tourism in this country. So we have a long way still. We lost a lot of that market to Grenada and to St. Lucia, and we are now trying to rebuild. We should not be rebuilding. We should have been standing on that and building, expanding it into the future. So we are not going to relent on this and to say, well, okay, we reach where we should be. We have a lot we could do.
The opposition leader said cruise tourism also needs to be looked at more seriously.
Tom, they say, man, we're losing a lot of money in a Friday. So what do you mean? He said the tours that we used to do, like shoot for Charlotte, for example, you can't, because it closed down. I mean, for how many years now they have that closed? The Belmont Lookout, that should have been fixed back in June and July in anticipation for the cruise ship visitors when they arrive, so that the taxi drivers can have places to take them and so forth. Then you have the Montreal Gardens, the road there. How many times we've been complaining and saying, and the owner has begged and beseeched and say, fix the road so that the taxi drivers would feel that they can bring visitors there, trips there, without having to risk damaging their vehicle, which is what it is now. I have man tell me he ain't kicking nobody there because the road's so bad that it would not be worth his while. He will do more damage to his vehicle than the fare could compensate. So these are all things that if you're serious, then you should develop them, the various sites around them. And what about the craft vendors, Craft vendors are valuable. They're a very, very valuable component of our tourism. When people come here, they don't want to look on the bottom of everything they buy and see made somewhere else. They want to have authentic stuff that is made here. And the people who provide that more than anyone else are the craft vendors, because they make the things themselves. Most of the stuff that they make have 100% local components. You know, there's no real importation. Some of it, yes, but most of it they make here and so forth. It helps to develop our local industries. The government needs to, as a state, we need to provide an environment to encourage that.
And tomorrow, Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024, the Ministry of Tourism will host its inaugural State of the Tourism Industry Address for stakeholders as the ministry advances plans for an active year in the tourism sector. A news release says participants will hear addresses from the SVG Hotel and Tourism Association and other key stakeholders, while Minister of Tourism Carlos James will deliver the keynote address. The ministry says the event is geared towards providing information to stakeholders and the public on the developmental initiatives to be rolled out in the tourism sector across St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the coming months. A number of new initiatives and programs are also expected to be announced. The State of the Tourism Industry Address will take place at the cruise ship terminal in Kingston from 10 a.m. In other local news now, we hear that Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves told the closing ceremony of the 19 Non-Aligned Movement Summit in Uganda that the strengthening of Africa and Caribbean unity is at the top of the agenda of his government and the people of the Caribbean and Latin America. The summit held in Uganda under the theme "Leaving No One Behind" sought to bring a new dynamic to the cooperation among its 134 member states in a more competitive world and aimed to boost South-South cooperation in the areas of trade, investment, sustainable development, climate change, poverty eradication, and digital economy, among other areas.
In the foundation of the NAM, Kwame Nkrumah said that we look neither east nor west, but we look forward. We look to the future. It is a long time, a long journey, and through the vicissitudes of life and living and production, and all the changing scenes, we have arrived at a new inflection point in the evolution of human history. We are at a point where the complexities and challenges and the global turmoil, they are of such a nature that the old order can no longer hold, yet the new is yet to begin. And the NAM and the G77, the developing world, the South, we have an special role to play. We have been told by those who have dominated the world for quite a while that the central contradiction in the world today revolved on the question of democracy versus autocracy. Well, from the trenches of the Caribbean, that has never been the central contradiction, and it is not today. The central contradiction is about who gets what, when, where, and how. Who owns and controls the resources and who determines the distribution of those resources. That is how it has been, and that is how it is today. And the restless South, justifiably, are demanding a better share of what the world has to offer. The poor, the marginalized, the disadvantaged. We are in quest for sustainable development, for peace. We want to see the climate change issues resolved. We want a better environment, a better future for our children and grandchildren.
Prime Minister Gonsalves also told the ceremony that as leaders, they have to work together in solidarity and not allow themselves to be divided as hitherto, and that it is such solidarity around specific objectives which will bring about the upliftment of themselves and all humanity, peace, security, sustainable development, a good environment, and prosperity for all. He also urged member states of the non-aligned movement to restate their solidarity with Cuba.
Not just a handful in a few privileged countries. We have at under consideration issues old and new, some continuing. Cuba is here, heroic Cuba. Cubans gave their lives in the struggle for the defense of the independence of Angola. And at the Battle of Cueto Valley, when they defeated the racist South Africans in conjunction with the forces of the MPLA, and in the process assisted in opening the cell doors of Nelson Mandela. Yet Cuba, with all its sacrifices, are still today bombarded by unilateral coercive measures. It is necessary and desirable that this NAM restates its solidarity with Cuba and call for the end to the criminal embargo of this magnificent land of our Caribbean. We have been making strides recently by our own efforts in the community of states of Latin America and the Caribbean. We have set a framework together through the Argyle Declaration in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a framework for peace between Guyana and Venezuela, and not to have open conflict. This is what we have to do in the NAM, this is what we have to do in the G77.
PM Gonzalez also strongly condemned the Israeli war in Gaza and the genocide being committed against the Palestinians.
Very eyes. A terrible genocide is unfolding before us. The first genocide, the first televised genocide in human history. And yet, complicit nations in the West, in North America, in Europe, are arming and financing the forces in the Israeli government which are committing this horrendous act of barbarism. Surely, elemental humanity must demand that there be a ceasefire, and this should stop. You know, I was having a conversation with a woman who is not political. She was watching Al Jazeera and watching the slaughter of children, 10,000 in 100 days. And she said to me in an act of a cry of hopelessness, helplessness really, can't the world do something about this? And she burst in tears. Have we reached such a stage in our human condition that collectively we cannot be the conscience of the world and bring an end to this savagery against the Palestinian people?
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is expected to begin the cultivation of white potatoes in February this year. Project coordinator Rohan McDonald told the API that the initiative on white potatoes is a spill-off of the CARICOM mandate 2525, which seeks to reduce the food import bill in the region by 25% by the year 2025. He said Dominica and Jamaica are already cultivating white potatoes on a large scale, and the Ministry of Agriculture, here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, is liaising with those countries as they embark on this initiative. McDonald said the project has 3 phases.
Is to procure the white potato, those varieties that are apt for tropical conditions. And those varieties will be coming in on Monday next week, the Desiree and the Spunta. Those are the names of the varieties. The next phase would be the testing, which is choosing agroecological zones in the country to see where is more apt for the cultivation and production of white potato. And the third phase would be the commercialization. All along these phases, we'll have different times when we have to consult with farmers. All the stakeholders, including supermarkets, will be conducting things like surveys, because once the testing phase is over and we move to the commercialization stage, then we have to come up with a production plan to do production scheduling, so that we'll know exactly when to produce and how much to produce, and the areas which are best suited for white potato production in St. Vincent.
And crop researcher in the Ministry of Agriculture, Ruthven Harper, said once the seeds arrive in the state, it is his duty to set up the experiment and produce the results for the ministry.
Basically, I'm the person responsible for setting up the experiment and basically producing the results for the ministry. Planted the 24 plots. These 24 plots will be in, each plot will contain both varieties and on the farmer's side. So once we have confirmation arrival of the fruits, the seeds, we will just basically begin cleaning, and then the ministry where we will do the planting of the seeds, develop a farmers program, develop a production program, and on this program now we, with extension, ensure that the farmer does everything within on that program.
According to the API, currently St. Vincent and Grenadines import approximately $5 million EC in white potatoes annually. And now on the weather now, we hear that in its 72 hours outlook, the SVG Met Services says the Western Atlantic high pressure system is building with increasing wind speeds, bringing patches of low-level clouds or occasional cloudy skies and a few scattered showers across St. Vincent and Grenadines. It says cloud patches and shower activity could increase across SVG overnight Tuesday, with scattered showers Wednesday and lingering on Thursday. Good visibility is expected across our area, except a film of haze during Tuesday night. Moderate fresh northeast trades across the islands could increase to strong during nighttime and maintain strong winds during Wednesday and Thursday. Residents are asked to be on the alert. Marine conditions are said to be moderate in open water, with northeasterly swells 1 to 5 meters on the western coast and 2 to 5 meters on the eastern coast of SVG. Swells are expected to rise near 2.0 meters on the western coast during Monday night, nearing 2.7 meters on the eastern coast during Tuesday and Wednesday. Swells heights could range from 3.0 meters to 3.5 meters on the eastern coast of St. Vincent by late Thursday. Small craft operators and residents along the coastal waters of SVG are asked to be prepared. Seabathers are also asked to exercise extreme caution for strong gusts and above normal sea swells. Cervical Cancer Awareness Month has been observed this month. The international team chosen for the month-long awareness activities is Learn, Prevent, Screen, which emphasizes the need to educate people about minimizing cervical cancer risk and the life-saving importance of regular screenings. In a telephone interview today with SVG-TV News, Executive Director of the Planned Parenthood Association, Odinga Louis Warner, advised females who are sexually active to have a cervical screening done, noting that the main risk factor for cervical cancer is the human papillomavirus or HPV.
Not currently at the St. Vincent Planned Parenthood Association. We do have a few of young adults and more mature females. But to say a percentage, I cannot say at this time, but we do have persons accessing our smears at the St. Vincent Planned Parenthood Association. One of the other factors can be genetic. You know, it can be inherited from family history. We can have factors, environmental factors, for example, exposure to carcinogens, which are cancer-causing substances in the environment, such as pollution, chemical or radiation, can increase the risk of developing cancer. A person, if it is genetic and it's in the family, I think that a person should be screened every year, if not every 2 years.
Warner said according to findings of confirmed mortalities, there has been a rise among females globally with cervical cancer, and said early detection, diagnosis and treatment are essential.
Definitely agree. a lot of people will say, I prefer not to know, but I will advise persons that if you seek treatment early, it gives you, a better opportunity for life. And you're not only doing this just for yourself, you also have your family to think about, and not just the family, your entire community. I don't want all females to become statistics of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. One of the things is I think that there's not much of a conversation where cervical cancer or endometriosis or other types of cancers, I don't think it's being pushed in among our communities as it should. So I think the St. Vincent Planned Parenthood Association has started, this movement for us to shed more light to women of taking more care, are more interested in themselves. So early detection equals early treatment. Check your diet. Be careful of what you intake, because a lot of these stuff that we tend to put in our bodies are filled with chemicals and hormones. So we need to be more conscious and more self-aware as to what we're eating, and have more exercises. Use more water. We tend to go towards sodas and stuff like that are not good for us. So go back to nature. Go back to nature. Your health is your responsibility. And if you can do it for yourself, if we have children, we do it for the sake of our loved ones.
As part of Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, the St. Vincent's Planned Parenthood Association is offering pap smear tests at a reduced cost of $50. According to the World Health Organization, cervical cancer is the fourth most common cancer in women globally, with an estimated 604,000 new cases and 342,000 deaths in 2020. The highest rates of cervical cancer and mortality are in low and middle income countries. And family nurse practitioner Sister Roxanne Joseph is also urging persons to have screening done for colon cancer, which she said is not as popular as other cancers and is often diagnosed at an advanced stage when treatment options are limited.
It is one of the cancers that when it's diagnosed, it's so far gone because of where it's located, the colon. The signs and symptoms are so subtle until it is far gone. So we are encouraging persons again to have this screening done. It's a colonoscopy. Speak to your district doctor, speak to your family nurse practitioner. We can have you referred and you can have that done, especially if you have a family history of colon cancer. We are saying to you, you may be feeling well, but it doesn't mean that all is well. You don't know what is happening on the inside. All right? And the old fables tell us stitching time saves 9. Prevention is better than cure. So that's what health screening is really reiterating.
In other local news now, we hear that as the National Public Library Archives and Document Services transitions its services to the digital platform, a series of training activities are being held this week at the National Public Library to equip staff with digitization skills. The new transition training project being carried out under the team managing a digitization program for archives is being done in partnership with UNESCO, the Ministry of Education, and National Archive Department of Trinidad and Tobago, and other stakeholders. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the training workshop today, representative of UNESCO, Janelle Henry Rose said that UNESCO plays a pivotal role in the digitization for archives project, explaining the journey of getting it to this point and preserving the Vincentian history. Henry Rose said that it wasn't without challenges. However, they are grateful for the assistance of the UNESCO head office.
For it was after April 2021 eruptions of our Lasso Frere volcano that help came as fast as the eruptions. Through the UNESCO Heritage Emergency Fund, we were able to receive over US $67,000. This fund is donation received from multi-donors that are non-earmarked in UNESCO. It enables UNESCO to respond very quickly and effectively to crises resulting from armed conflicts, disasters caused by natural and human hazards all over the world. So we were very fortunate. Today, we wish to highlight our gratitude. We are grateful because we were able to purchase our digitization machine from Crowley Company and have the technicians, the able technicians that is, on the ground to install the machine. We are grateful because we are able to have two of the best specialists within the field from Trinidad National Archives. They will be undertaking our training with our own experts here and many other enthusiasts.
The UNESCO representative said they are also partnering with the Agency for Public Information on the National Film Heritage Archive project.
UNESCO is committed to safeguard what we have. As such, we have signed on to many of their conventions, including the intangible cultural heritage, the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expressions. Additionally, we will do our best to continue to work to have at least one national site inscribed on the World Heritage List. The task seems insurmountable, but we will get there. Currently, we are working with Grenada to have the Grenadines of the two islands also inscribed under the Grenadines Upstream project. Moreover, we will continue work on our Man and the Biosphere program to have the Bokomen Valley as an established site. And just recently, UNESCO funded a program under our participation program, the API's National Film Heritage Archive project. And I will just borrow from the words of the director when he summed up. This is what it was all about. The project has paved the way for the preservation of critical information that was stored on videotapes and remained inaccessible for current usage. So we are at a better stage, and we will continue to work with API, with the National Public Library, to ensure that all that we have, all our stories are preserved.